The egoless state is our real state, the only real state there is. In this way, the Maharshi pointed out the truth of our being. He indicated it in such words, and of course also in his silence. Silence being, as he states in Who Am I? That state in which no I arises. That in which no I arises is that in which nothing else arises. Where there is nothing else, there is utter non-duality. That pure being, consciousness, bliss. That is the real state, the reality. And reality is one only, without an alternative. Hence the significance of Advaita, non-duality, one without a second. This reality is your being. It is realized through self-knowledge. If you know yourself, by virtue of deeply inquiring, who am I, within yourself, you will find that there is no one answering to the name of I. I-less being is the true state, your actual existence. All that is necessary is to deeply inquire into the nature of your existence, the existence that you feel all the time, even now. If the nature of that existence is known, and it alone can know itself, for it alone is consciousness, there's not a trace of individuality or ego. And where there is no ego, there's no possibility of bondage. Hence, the state of I-less being is known as liberation. It is liberation from all of the imagined bondage. Bondage is only imagined. That is, it's a product of delusion, just mere ignorance. And ignorance has no substance. It seems solid, and a whole illusion can seem to come forth from it. But if you inquire to know the truth about your being, the illusion shrinks up to nothing at all. Because it is in reality nothing at all, illusion is said to be beginningless. That is, it did not have a beginning. When we find that it did not have a beginning, the very starting point, which is I, is not, this is the end of illusion. All bondage is only imagined based on the notion I. Whatever be the further misidentification constituting the ignorance and the bondage and the consequent suffering, it always involves the notion I. Therefore, inquire into this I to see what it is. If you inquire, suffering vanishes because its basis of bondage proves unreal. Bondage vanishes because the misidentifications constituting it prove unreal. The misidentifications with the body and so forth vanish because the I who would have such delusion proves unreal. At that point, there's nothing else to prove. Inquire within yourself. What do you regard yourself as? What do you take I to be? Like this is the inquiry that the Maharshi has taught. You have the very basic sense of existence. It is without doubt. No one doubts his own existence. Inquire to see what that existence is. At first it seems individualized, but inquire to know what its nature is. If you do so, its individuality, being unreal, vanishes. What is real never vanishes. What is real has no birth or death, no appearance, no disappearance. What is real about your existence has no appearance or disappearance. Proceed along the lines of your own experience. What, regarding your existence, has no appearance and no disappearance, no birth and no death? What is it that does not come and go, regardless of whether your mind is awake or dreaming or in deep dreamless sleep? Put the question to yourself. Ask yourself, who am I? Can I be the body? If not, who am I? Like this, inquire. Whatever you think of, can you be what is objective, that is the thought? If not, who am I? Like this, inquire. As long as I, ego I, is taken for granted, there will appear to be differentiation. An I, a universe, a God, and so forth and so on. If you inquire and know yourself as you are, in that eyeless being, the first differentiation has not occurred yet, nor will it occur in the future. The eyeless state is the undifferentiated state. That is the real state. And the characteristic of reality is that it never changes. So that an ego was not born, nor will it be born. A separate world has not been created, nor will it be created. That which appears as all this universe, that which is known as God, that which is the essence of I within. It's all one and the same thing. That same thing ought to know itself. For that purpose, there is this inquiry. If there is difference, apparently, between you and Brahman, inquire, know yourself. If there is some distinction between you and your happiness so that you want to pursue it somewhere, inquire and know yourself. Then you yourself are the happiness you sought. Likewise is it peace, love, and wisdom and such. Coming to a satsang like this, you're looking for the self. Is there a distinction between the self and yourself? If so, what constitutes the distinction? As Sri Bhagavan would say, leave the self alone, it will take care of itself just fine. Deal with yourself. Make your vision non-objective and know yourself. If you do so, the your part disappears. The self alone remains. All right, that much has been said as a reminder of basic truth. If at any point anyone has a question or wishes to relate your own experience, go ahead and feel free to do so. Go ahead, Richard.
As I've been continuing to inquire into the substrata, the avenue of approach that I have been taking is to look for what is always the same, what is constant, what you talked about in this morning's satsang, what is unchanging. That approach still continues to deepen my experience. I find my conviction that all there is Brahman and that I am certainly stronger. And by looking for what is unchanging, I notice in eyes open meditation that while there is breathing, while there may be movement in the car, while all of these things seem to occur, yet there is still something that is so solid and unmoving that it seems surprising that we do not notice it. Sometimes when I'm doing the meditation, it seems like it is the witness. But again, sometimes standing where it is unmoving, then what one can notice is the moving, which one is not. And of course, what that moving, which one is not, certainly includes the waking state in its entirety. Sometimes it seems deeper than the witness, and certainly in terms of my meditation, it is this in which even the witness goes away that is my desire. And anything you can say that continues to point me to the deepest, I would appreciate.
One and the same consciousness is known as God, the witness, or Brahman, which has no creation, according to the depth of self-knowledge. Depth of knowledge is determined by absence of misidentification. So if you are a formed entity, that same consciousness appears as the Supreme Lord, as God, the Infinite. And that is undoubtedly eternal, never changing in the midst of all the phenomenal changes. The whole world comes and goes, but it does not come and go. If there is less misidentification, you're not the body, nor are you the thinking process called the mind. If this is the depth of knowledge, then that witness, which is never the witnessed, is known as the, that consciousness is known as the witness. And it sees all, none see it. It knows all, nothing knows it. It sees the motion, it sees the stillness of your senses, of your body. It's even the witness of all the states, waking and all its content, dreaming and all its content, deep sleep and its absence of content. It never changes. No matter what appears, it remains the same. Everything appears for it. Everything appears only in it. Because the nature of that consciousness is boundaryless. The formless has no boundary. There is then no outside. All the while it is changeless. All that changes appears only in it, not elsewhere. Therefore, there's nothing apart from the self. If you pursue the knowledge deeper, how could that which is unchanging, of the nature of pure consciousness, give rise to anything? What would cause it to do so? For whom would the changeful be? If we know like this, if we inquire like this, then it's just Brahman. The same consciousness which is just Brahman is called the witness in relation to all else. When we inquire for whom is all else and who am I, there's no such thing as all else. Then we can say everything is only Brahman, but the emphasis is on Brahman, not everything, which means Brahman alone is. Then we can't talk of everything anymore. How to proceed? Just go on inquiring into the nature of that witness. If you know yourself as the witness, and do not mistake yourself to be a body, product of your senses, the thinking of the mind, go on inquiring into what is this that is the witness? Who am I? You can simply take away every last tinge of the witnessed from the witness, and what remains is pure consciousness. Because you've removed the objective portion. Is it clear how to proceed?
I had a good meditation on Wednesday, and basically my desire to get back to that meditation is, I guess, an obstacle now. And
why would the desire to return to the meditation be the obstacle?
okay. I feel like I'm trying too hard. Well, I'm probably trying the wrong way.
Which is it? Trying too hard or trying the wrong way?
Wrong way.
Okay. I never met anyone who tried too hard.
I know that. So my question is, when, okay, let's say I look at the consciousness, okay, I inquire, who am I? And rather than that question being answered by the I thought, says I. Say the consciousness, I'm directed to the consciousness, okay, and I just focus there and try to just be quiet there, and there's great bliss, and it's very nice. But I'm aware that I thought is subdued but still present, and I find that very want to get rid of it. Okay, and then the one who wants to get rid of it, that's part of the problem there. And I don't know, I've tried, sometimes I try to hold on to the thought and just through attention, not trying to be somebody who's holding on to something, but allowing the attention to rest there, observing it, and it would start to dissolve, and then there would be this unbearable bliss. And that's kind of how I got into that meditation on Wednesday, was that there was this unbearable bliss, and I questioned who cannot bear it, and the unbearable aspect of it dissolved along with the individual, and nothing changed with the bliss though. It just became suddenly quite bearable without anyone else there who had to bear it. Anyways.
So it was the ego I that was unbearable, not the bliss.
Very much so. I mean, it's not, they can't be in the same room together. And then there was this feeling of oneness, okay, of being at one with all, and then I questioned that, and that also was, I noticed it was something else. It was a something, and I questioned that, and that dissolved, and then there was just the all, without anyone being that, without anyone trying, without anyone having to do anything to maintain it or concentrate. And that was really powerful. I mean, coming out of that meditation, that was something that I've got to get back there. And now I'm setting it up as a place to get back to. And so I guess I need some clarification to stop trying in the wrong way.
Can you perceive how you came out of the meditation? If you perceive how you came out, you can find your way back in by going back the way you came.
I had to come out by, I guess, first recreating this one who was at one with this, the self, and then just further adding more layers on there.
So if you want to get back to it, you need to examine him.
Yes.
Because you can set about trying to eliminate the sense of objectivity to the experience, it will still boil down to coming around to knowing yourself. You still have to know who you are. Otherwise, the tendencies will remain.
One thing that seems to trip me up is giving reality to the I thought. Okay, that it actually exists.
Does it?
Well, my feeling that it exists, okay, and my ability to perceive it seems to be a notion in itself. That I'm saying that it's existing.
Well, at least we know where the reality comes from then.
Yeah. It's not like it come from any place else. So say I'm in meditation and I'm witnessing this I thought. And there's the sense that it does exist. It seems to be reinforced by the fact that if it goes away, there's this great rush of bliss, and that it had to be real because when I left it, there was something that happened, you know? And that's not clear seeing on my part.
The fact that when the I subsides, intense bliss is felt is just an indication of what's natural. That bliss is always present. If bliss is the same as being, being is never more at one time and less at another, or more in one place and less than another. Bliss must be likewise. The differences in degrees of happiness are actually degrees of illusion, not degrees of the reality.
It seems that you cannot speak of bliss without some objectivity there.
That's true of everything. So we need to understand when we speak.
Say that again.
That's true of everything. You need to understand when we speak. When we speak of the self, you can conceive of it in objective terms.
Mm-hmm.
Don't ask me what those terms would be. I wouldn't know. Likewise, being, consciousness, bliss, and everything else that is spoken of here or in the scriptures. So since the time of the Vedas, it's incumbent upon you to understand. Or we can use different words, but then those also become
Yes.
tainted by objective misunderstanding.
I guess where I was thinking was that if there's a feeling of great bliss and then the individual ceases, okay, then there's no one experiencing that bliss. And bliss is not really bliss anymore. I mean, it's still bliss, but it's the same as existence consciousness. And it's reality. I mean, if the individual ceases, there's only one thing left. And I come back to this idea that the I thought is there, because if there's only one thing, then this I thought idea that it's there must not be opposed to that which is. It must be I'm misperceiving.
Mm-hmm. So illusion consists of a misperception of reality. as in the old example, taking the rope to be a snake. There is the rope, but it's being mistaken as a snake. There is no snake. That self is being regarded as individualized, as an I, or I thought, or I notion, some kind of I mode, aham vritti. Inquiry doesn't recreate it or transform it into anything else, just reveals what is true. What is true is that there's no such thing as an individual I, just as there is no snake. Just as there is only the rope, likewise there's just this one self. That being consciousness bliss.
One would think or say that I thought was just a movement in the reality, but that still gives it some separateness or some objectivity, and even that is.
It may be a nice half step for you, but I wouldn't stop there.
Yes.
How are duties created? Is duty a mere illusion? And how can one identify and fulfill duties in life?
What is the prime duty in life?
Fulfilling the various roles that one is placed.
Those are secondary. The prime duty is what we call self-realization or liberation. It is not opposed to fulfilling the other duties. It is just transcends them. So if you are fulfilling the various duties, engaged in the various activities in which you are thrust in life, there is one thing that must be taken care of: liberation, moksha. Otherwise, we haven't fulfilled them to the best possible level that we can. If we take care of all the other duties in life and we neglect the spiritual one of self-realization, then we have left something out that's very important. We've left it unattended to. If we take care of that self-realization, regardless of the state of the other duties, how much we've done, how much remains to be done, etc. But if we take care of that self-realization, then we have done what we're supposed to do. And no one can find fault with that. The other duties are for your body. What you do, speech, how you relate, etc. The duty of the inward mind is to dissolve. That's liberation.
Duty of a mother.
The duty of a mother is to become that from which everything is born. The duty of the mother is to set an example for those who she gives birth to as to what is the highest fulfillment in life. If she takes care of everything else, but does not take care of liberation, it will be up to her children to renounce later and say, I need to take up this path of liberation. Mother didn't know what she was doing. If, however, the mother attends to her liberation, her self-realization, then she has not only given birth, but she's found a way to find the unborn and left that as a legacy to her children. And that is the highest good.
This last week I had a mixed experience. Like at work I had a shift where at the hospital where I felt free and calm and a sense of playfulness in the midst of intense demands and activities. And I could see that that's moving closer to the goal of how I wish to abide. Because there was a day before it and a day afterwards, which weren't quite the same. So, in my practice, self-knowledge and self-inquiry, I endeavor to carry that sense, that bhava, into my daily activities. And there's a forgetfulness sometimes, or there's a crowding out of through self-concern or anticipation. I was looking at these ideas, and some of them, in a sense, where Maharshi talks about, you can take the world to be real and not be a realization. I think there's some of that in there, because sometimes it feels like there's something out there that's still, and sometimes pretty solid. But now I'm trying to carry that sense of more of a playfulness, and not take it to be so real. It's something that I can move through, feel a greater sense of detachment, or even when one aspect of my responsibilities is giving a little more direction to some of our staff nurses, to see them as my children, and how would I want to support them and nurture them and guide them in a loving way, rather than anxiety or something.
Is there a question?
Well, I feel like I want to have less of a mixed experience. I know that I have to go deeper, but I'm not. Sometimes I'm feeling there's a fluctuation.
It's the nature of the mind to have mixtures, as there's a variety of thought. Because of the variety of thought, your mind has different moods, different modes. None of them are the eternal. To be detached is good. The greater the detachment, the better. The more your mind dwells on spiritual themes, the better. But those spiritual themes are about something that is quite beyond the scope of the personal mind. It's within, but beyond the personal mind, in which the person doesn't occupy center stage. Seek that. That state which we call liberation or self-realization, which is to be found inside yourself, is something a lot faster than what you're contemplating so far. Seek that vastness. You don't have to settle for something very small. For how many days have the concerns about your work and the interactions with your fellow workers, for how many days has that preoccupied your mind in your life?
Either when I'm on my way to work or when I'm at work, not too much of it. But it's, well, I've been looking for
Okay.
much too long. It's been preoccupying me much too long.
That whole everyday life, where does it occur?
It's all in my mind. But I don't always see it that way. But that's where it's got me happy. Even places of amusement in this world, it's all made up from the mind, in the senses.
If it is all in your mind, just like a dream is all in your mind, and the content of that dream is the dream state, likewise, the content of the waking state is made up of the waking state of mind, so that the state of mind itself veils the reality and projects multiplicity, as if there were many things you were experiencing. If this you have as a conviction inside yourself, then be determined to find that which is not a product of your mind. That's no small thing. Then there's no such thing as daily life. There's just spiritual life. You understand?
Yes.
It's not that you don't do those things, but you are not the doer of those things. Where is it all occurring? If it's all within your mind, find out for whom that mind is. And no longer regard yourself as anything appearing in any state of mind.
When the waking state, then like upon arising, when the waking state, when one shifts into the waking state, then how to meditate then? It seems like it can happen pretty fast sometimes.
Fast or slow is not important. What's important is what you regard yourself as. The waking state is going on right now, I trust? Okay. So this conversation seems to be occurring. All right. This waking state experience, something is aware of it. Track down that which is aware. Even now, can you be the body? Can you be the thoughts that are coursing through your mind? What are you even now? This is why the Maharishi advises inquiry to know yourself. And not so much does he give instruction about how to prepare yourself for specific incidences, times, places, situations. Because those times, places, situations, and incidents are all just in the mind. Are you the mind?
No, I know that I'm not the mind. I just have to establish my identity more deeply and consistently, and then I can stand as the witness of this.
So everything hinges on the knowledge of your identity. That knowledge of your identity is not subservient to anything. Everything is subservient to it. You do not pursue self-knowledge to use it as a tool for something else. Though you may use any experience and any mode of thinking, etc., to facilitate further knowledge or inquiry into who you are. But the knowledge does not enable you to do anything. It wipes out the doer entirely. Knowledge is for the sake of reality, not for the sake of a dream.
There's no purity.
It's where your happiness is. Good, Chris.
Uniting, as it were, the two instructions to Richard and to Tim. In the case of where there is a witness, you instruct us from time to time. How can there be a witness when the true self itself is changeless, absolute, eternal, and infinite? And the answer to that, it cannot be. You cannot have at once something that's changeless and something arising. So that's an invitation to dive deeper through inquiry, so that the stand of our identity taken up is deep enough. And what's good for me in the metaphor in this instruction, because I've received this from you in beautiful instruction many times, it's the best metaphor I can come to. It's like when the stand becomes as the water. There's not a question of whether there's a bigger wave or a smaller wave appearing to the water. There is only the water, and that can be realized as a irrefutable, direct experience. In fact, only when the inquiry goes deep enough to have one's identity being that water, being that alone. And that's now dawning on me even more deeply. One of the instructions you gave me when I asked you about this, and I said, what about the world or something? And you replied to me, it's not that I You don't see a world. I see that there is no world. So you don't see a world, you just realize that whatever is apperceived is none other than that. So there is no other to see, there is just that. And that's my identity.
Everything that has been taught since ancient times about the absolute self, about ajata, no creation, is meant for immediate first-hand experience. There's nothing theoretical. It'd be better to say the whole world is a theory. The inquiry reveals that experience directly, because it does not include any of the dualism, any of the imagination that one is trying to transcend. That's making your vision non-objective. So there is just water. Big wave, small wave, it's just water. What could change the water into a wave or form it into a wave? There's no second thing. This is where we leave the analogy behind.
No wind.
Nothing turned the rope into a snake. So, by way of expedient teaching, we can say, whatever occurs is still only that. Of course, nothing really actually occurs. And in order to realize that completely, when there is some occurrence, whatever it is that you seem to be experiencing, whether gross or subtle, Sri Bhagavan says, inquire for whom is it? According to the definition of the I, that will be the definition of this. And between that I and this swings the entirety of Maya. To eliminate the false sense of this, just look at the I. If I-ness vanishes, this also has vanished. Just one infinite existence, one pure consciousness, always is. As long as there's going in and out, or there's the apprehension of this by the mind, but the experience does not seem to match it, knowledge is not complete or not solid, pursue the inquiry. Gotcha.
I was just reflecting on what the woman in the front had said about I need to get all these things done, then I can work on the spiritual things. And I find that when I go that direction and all that fracturing starts to happen of there's this task and there's this and this and this, it gets further away from a spiritual orientation. And it starts to become almost everything is exclusive of everything else, like a whole bunch of little islands. But if I focus the other direction, on what's important is realization, then the fracturing starts to kind of mend itself. So that tending to my job or to my children is an expression or an opportunity for realization. It all starts to kind of come back together. And there's joy in everything. There's nothing outside of it that's waiting to get taken care of. And so and I'm not in that state all the time. So I was asking the question, I was reflecting here, what causes that change in direction, or what? Because as soon as it starts to happen, if I'm awake, I'm really aware of it. It seems to be tied maybe in a couple things. One is desire. there's some desire that starts to happen, thinking that there's something outside that I need to get. And that's usually followed closely, or maybe it happens at the same time, as the fear that I won't get it.
Mm-hmm.
So it starts up.
Desire and fear are twins.
The whole fracturing starts to happen again. It's like, boy, I'd like to take a little time to meditate or focus on that, but boy, if I don't take care of this, then the whole identity starts to shift into an objective mode. And
What is it that you desire? When you desire that you meet all these different things and bring them to completion, do them all right. Some of them are ongoing, so you have to consider this, envision this over a whole lifetime. And you take care of everything. What state do you anticipate being there? The children are taken care of, the job's taken care of, all the physical duties are taken care of. What do you envision as the state that remains when everything is taken care of? To your satisfaction.
the state would be one of no desire. It'd be one of peace, nothing missing, no place to go.
Now the point is that peace is existing already. What you desire is already existent. When you make that peace dependent upon the objective circumstances, you play the part of the robber robbing yourself. If a thief steals from himself, can he complain to anybody? But it's still wrong for him to do it.
You suffer greatly.
You suffer greatly. Now, if you attend to the knowledge of the self, that peace is already there. Knowledge of yourself also implies the knowledge of others, since they all are just one self. So you'd actually know your own children.
Known instead of like objects or things.
Mm-hmm. Because if you know the objective portion, you don't know who they are. If you know your wife, but you don't know who she is, what do you know? If you know your children, but you don't know who they really are, what do you know? Hence that Upanishadic verse, which is one of those we recited at the end of Satsang just a few weeks ago. The wife is not loved for the sake of the wife, but for the sake of the self. The children or the son is not loved for the sake of the children, but for the sake of the self, and so forth and so on. It's a long verse. I'm not going to recite it all now. For the sake of the self. That's what all those things are for. But you don't realize the self just by your instruments of your body and mind, and your speech included, taking care of the objective aspects. But if you take care of self-knowledge, then you've really taken care. Here are certain things you're going to do during this life. This is another angle of vision. There are certain things you're going to take care of in this life. That's the prarabdha karma, the karma that's playing out for this life. What you have a choice of is not so much whether you're going to take care of them or not and how they fail or succeed. What you have a choice of is whether you're going to know yourself and thus be at peace and happy, or whether you're going to suffer with misery unnecessarily throughout it all. That's your choice. You can either do it with ignorance or do it with knowledge. Now, if you do it with ignorance, you will suffer. There's no advantage to that. The suffering is purposeless. There's no purpose to Maya or delusion. If you perform those same things, but with knowledge, you will not suffer. You'll be happy at heart, at peace at all times. What does it boil down to? Knowing the purpose of life. Know the purpose of life. Or again, know where happiness really lies, since you mentioned desire. If only you know where happiness really is, you become desireless. And if you become eyeless, you become fearless. fear exists only in the sphere of duality. Is it clear for you?
A question about what Jim was just saying about everything is an opportunity for self-realization. Around prarabdha karma, there was a question pertaining to the time when Ramada's mother came to visit him the first time in Arunachala. And he made a statement to her after considerable time, the first sentence of which was, "The ordainer controls the fate of souls in accordance with their prarabdha karma." So I was meditating on that, and does that mean that grace comes through, the experience of prarabdha karma, grace can come through it, or awakening, that opportunity is for us to awaken through experiences as we have prarabdha karma?
You can view it all as prarabdha karma, or you can view it all as a function of grace.
Yeah, grace coming through.
For one, his mind is bent outward, it's karma. For one, his mind is turned inward, the power belongs only to grace. But grace is more than that. That same grace liberates one from all the karma. His first instruction to her was silence. Only when she went on questioning, and also someone interjected on her behalf, please say something, then he gave her that message. The purpose of which was to lift her entirely out of the bonds of karma, to cause her to be detached from all the phenomenal occurrences. Later, those phenomenal occurrences included her own body, birth and death, etc., and liberation was assured.
This last week there was an opportunity where, and there are going to be more, I'm sure, so I want to go through this particular meditation. There was a necessity to let go of self-concern and to pay close attention to the task. And so I was doing it in this one particular activity. And there was a desire just to do that. Anyway, there was, in the moment, there was an expansion, and there was noticing of conceptual thought and natural letting go at the same time, and then paying attention and concentration. And it was sounded like a good way to live and a good way to just to be, I guess. So I wanted to, and I can see so much in my life coming up that's going to require that same approach, require self-concern and paying attention. And so I just wanted to go deeper with that because it seemed to open up. Whenever there's a great expanse, I always feel better than constriction anyway. But it seemed to do that, but it also seemed to illumine bondage itself, or conceptual thoughts of and that's always totally exciting to me because looking at it sort of on my own seems laborious and slow. And when there's this illumination of it that seems so quick and so thorough and so natural, that it feels so much better and so much deeper. So I wanted to use everything that life is going to present for approaching in the way that's the most expedient.
When you concentrate, let us say at the task at hand, the thoughts that are concentrated on that task cause the other thoughts that you might have otherwise occupying your mind to subside. The subsidence is temporary, but it is a subsidence. If you're accustomed to having personality-ridden thoughts, emotional thoughts and so forth and so on, then when you're concentrating on the task at hand, those thoughts will be absent, and you will enjoy the absence of those thoughts. When they start to recur, or if they try to rise up again, you will feel, as you described, more illumination because you just enjoyed the break from them. And the concentration on one thought has led to a diminishing of them and making them stand out when they do start to arise again. To that extent, it is beneficial. Now, if the same concentration is pointed in the direction of something that goes beyond the ego, let us say God, the benefit is so much more. Because here then you not only eliminate the multiplicity of deluded thoughts, but there's the positive aspect of giving your mind to something that's real. While the task can only be temporary, God is eternal. If the pursuit of God would become more intense, there would be a corresponding diminishing of the personal element that would no longer be dependent on the concentrated attention. If the pursuit of such knowledge of God or surrender to God would continue further, the I sense would diminish, go on diminishing. Where the root, the I sense, would diminish, obviously no sprout in the form of the various personal thoughts would be forthcoming. When the I-ness would disappear entirely, the same is the state of self-knowledge. The source of that freedom, the source of that illumination. So once again, make your vision impersonal. Aim for that which is impersonal.
मनो हि द्विविधं प्रोक्तं शुद्धं च शुद्धमेव च अशुद्धं कामसङ्कल्पं शुद्धं कामविवर्जितम्.
The mind is chiefly spoken of as two kinds, pure and impure. The impure mind is that which is possessed of desires, and the pure is that which is devoid of desire.
मन एव मनुष्याणां कारणं बन्धमोक्षयोः बन्धाय विषयासक्तं मुक्तं निर्विषयं स्मृतम्.
It is indeed the mind that is the cause of men's bondage and liberation. The mind that is attached to sense objects leads to bondage, while disassociated from sense objects, it tends to lead to liberation. So they think.
यतो निर्विषयस्यास्य मनसो मुक्तिरिष्यते अतो निर्विषयं नित्यं मनः कार्यं मुमुक्षुणा.
Since liberation is predicated of the mind devoid of desire for sense objects, therefore the mind should always be made free of such desire by the seeker after liberation.
निरस्तविषयासङ्गं सन्निरुद्धं मनोहृदि यदा यात्यात्मनो भावं तदा तत्परमं पदम्.
When the mind, with its attachment for sense objects annihilated, is fully controlled within the heart, and thus realizes its own essence, then that supreme state is gained.
तावदेव निरोधव्यं यावद्वृद्धिगतं क्षयम् एतज्ज्ञानं च ध्यानं च शेषो न्यायश्च विस्तरः.
The mind should be controlled to that extent in which it gets merged in the heart. This is jnana, realization, and this is dhyana, meditation also. All else is argumentation and verbiage.
नैव चिन्त्यं न चाचिन्त्यं न चिन्त्यं चिन्त्यमेव तत् पक्षपातविनिर्मुक्तं ब्रह्म सम्पद्यते तदा.
The supreme state is neither to be thought of, nor unworthy to be thought of, nor is it to be thought of, but it should be thought of. That Brahman, which is free from all partiality, is attained in that state.
स्वरेण सन्धयेद्योगम् अस्वरं भावयेत् परम् अस्वरेणानुभावेन भावो वा भावयिष्यते.
One should duly practice concentration on Om first through the means of its letters, then meditate on Om without regard to its letters. Finally, on the realization with this latter form of meditation on Om, the idea of the non-entity is attained as entity.
तदेव निष्कलं ब्रह्म निर्विकल्पं निरञ्जनं तद्ब्रह्माहमिति ज्ञात्वा ब्रह्म सम्पद्यते ध्रुवम्.
That alone is Brahman, without component parts, without doubt, and without taint. Realizing I am that Brahman, one becomes the immutable Brahman.
निर्विकल्पम् अनन्तं च हेतुदृष्टान्तवर्जितम् अप्रमेयम् अनादिं च यज्ञात्वा मुच्यते बुधः.
Brahman is without doubt endless, beyond reason and analogy, beyond all proofs and causeless, knowing which the wise one becomes free.
न निरोधो न चोत्पत्तिः न बद्धो न च साधकः न मुमुक्षुर्न वै मुक्ता इत्येषा परमार्थता.
The highest truth is that pure consciousness which realizes there is neither control of the mind nor its coming into play. Neither am I bound, nor am I a worshipper. Neither am I a seeker after liberation, nor one who has attained liberation.
एवात्ममन्तव्यो जाग्रस्वप्नः सुषुप्तिषु स्थानत्रयव्यतीतस्य पुनर्जन्म न विद्यते.
Verily, the Atman should be known as being the same in its states of wakefulness, dreaming, and dreamless sleep. For him who has transcended the three states, there is no more rebirth.
एक एव हि भूतात्मा भूते भूते व्यवस्थितः एकधा बहुधा चैव दृश्यते चलचन्द्रवत्.
Being the one, the universal soul is present in all beings. Though one, it is seen as many, like the moon in the water.
खडसंवृतमाकाशं नीयमाने यथा यथा खडो नीयेतनाकाशं तथा जीवो नभोपमः.
Just as it is the jar, which being removed from one place to another, changes places, and not the akasha, enclosed in the jar, so is the jiva, which resembles the akasha.
घटवद्विविधाकारं विद्यमानं पुनः पुनः तद्भग्नं न च जानाति स जानाति च नित्यशः.
When various forms like the jar are broken again and again, the akasha does not know them to be broken, but he knows perfectly.
शब्दमायावृतो नैव तमसा याति पुष्करे भिन्ने तमसि चैकत्वम् एक एवानुपश्यति.
Being covered by Maya, which is a mere sound, it does not, through darkness, know the akasha, the blissful one. When ignorance is rent asunder, it being then itself only, sees the unity.
शब्दाक्षरं परं ब्रह्म तस्मिन् क्षीणे यदक्षरं तद्विद्वानक्षरं ध्यायेत् यदिच्छेत् शान्तिमात्मनः.
The Om, as word, is first looked upon as the Supreme Brahman. After that word idea has vanished, that imperishable Brahman remains. The wise one should meditate on that imperishable Brahman if he desires the peace of his soul.
द्वे विद्ये वेदितव्येतो शब्दब्रह्म परं च यद् शब्दब्रह्मणि निष्णातः परं ब्रह्माधिगच्छति.
Two kinds of vidya ought to be known, the word Brahman and the Supreme Brahman. One having mastered the word Brahman attains to the highest Brahman.
ग्रन्थमभ्यस्य मेधावी ज्ञानविज्ञानतत्परः पलालमिव धान्यार्थी त्यजेद्ग्रन्थम् अशेषतः.
After studying the Vedas, the intelligent one who is solely intent on acquiring knowledge and realization should discard the Vedas altogether, as the man who seeks to obtain rice discards the husk.
गवामनेकवर्णानां क्षीरस्याप्येकवर्णतां क्षीरवत् पश्यते ज्ञानं लिङ्गिनस्तु गवांसका.
Of cows which are of diverse colors, the milk is of the same color. The intelligent one regards jnana as the milk and the many-branched Vedas as the cows.
धृतमिव पयसं निगूढं भूते भूते वसति विज्ञानं सततं मन्थयितव्यं मनसा मन्दानभूतेन.
Like the butter hidden in milk, the pure consciousness resides in every being. That ought to be constantly churned out by the churning rod of the mind.
ज्ञाननेत्रं समादाय उत्तरेद्वन्नि तत्परं निष्कलं निश्चलं शान्तं तद्ब्रह्माहमिति स्मृतम्.
Taking hold of the rope of knowledge, one should bring out, like fire, the Supreme Brahman. I am that Brahman, indivisible, immutable, and calm. Thus it is thought of.
सर्वभूतादिवासं यद्भूतेषु च वसत्यपि सर्वानुग्रहकत्वेन तदस्म्यहं वासुदेवः तदस्म्यहं वासुदेव इति.
In whom resides all beings, and who resides in all beings by virtue of his being the giver of grace to all. I am that soul of the universe, the supreme being. I am that soul of the universe, the supreme being.